Welcome to the Box Score Sports Podcast.
Let's start with the Eagles and Commanders. We're going to do the great, the good, the bad, and the ugly for each game. So let's start with the Commanders and the Eagles. The Eagles beat the Commanders 55-23. And why don't we start with our great, Clint? What was your great for the Eagles beating the Commanders?
I'm just going to say the rushing between Hurts and Barkley. We talked
Mhm.
about Barkley, how crazy it was. First play, bust a tackle, touchdown. Um, Jalen Hurts moved better than I think a lot of us thought. And again, they just controlled the ball on the ground. And we know that was a weakness. The Lions ran it all over Washington too. Probably should have done it more. But the weakness of the Commanders was that defense. They kind of patched it together, but 229 yards, seven touchdowns given up on the ground. Um, I mean, even Will Shipley just took it down on one of those closing drives. I know it's kind of fait accompli at that point, but being able to control that was just a masterclass in being able to just grind out the game as it went.
Yeah, it's crazy. Saquon had 8 yards a carry, 15 carries. I think that's exactly what Gibbs had actually too for 118 yards, three touchdowns. He had that long of 60. There was just no stopping Saquon. And just to add to your point, if you just do the running backs, the three running backs that got carries, it even takes out Hurts because Hurts, even though a lot of it was the like tush push or brotherly shove, whatever you want to call it, he averaged 1.6 yards a carry. But if you just look at the running backs, it was 22 carries for 203 yards. That's basically 10 yards a carry for the running backs. I know you're right. Shipley kind of went in there and just kind of had four big carries, but still, that's just not good. So I'm with you. The run game, Saquon Barkley for me specifically, but the run game's good for me for the great in that game. Let's go to the good. What was your good for this game?
Yeah, I'm going to give it to Jalen Hurts. We talked about his rushing, but this was the first game that he looked a little more like Jalen Hurts that we've been accustomed to. He threw a few good passes. They got AJ Brown going, like they kind of got a rhythm going, which they haven't done before. Is that a side effect of the Washington defense? I guess we'll find out. But for the Eagles, your worry going through the playoffs was Jalen Hurts had what, like 130 yards or less the first two games.
Yeah.
He gets up 246 in a game where they minus one or two spots didn't really have to push the ball.
Yeah.
They could have just ran this ball 30 more times with all their different running backs and won. But he looked better. He moved around better than I think, I thought picking the Commanders, the way his knee bent, some of the reports, even in practice, this jogging, it looked like he was favoring it. So probably the first game where you've had confidence that at least Jalen Hurts has something going positive going into the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's kind of I had the passing game for the Eagles. Yeah, I'm with you on that. And since you picked that, I'll just go. Jaden Daniels also had a pretty good game for being the losing team quarterback. He wasn't the reason why they lost that game. It's just like it got out of hand pretty quickly. Not in the first quarter, but definitely in the second quarter, which we'll talk about. But he had a QBR 83.2, 255 yards, a touchdown. He did throw a pick, but he also had 48 yards rushing off of six carries and a touchdown. So he was kind of doing it all. He didn't play perfect. It wasn't the game he had against the Lions, but he played pretty good for his first NFC Championship game in his rookie year. So I'll give Daniels the good.
Yeah, and he moved around. They kept it close. Like that first drive, what was it, like 15 or 16 plays, and they didn't even cover that much ground, but they were just the definition of nickel and dime in that defense, like you have to. And I know at the end, 29 to 48 doesn't look great, but he had the 48, the rushing touchdown. You're right. He's not the reason they lost.
Yeah, 18 plays just to be specific. But yeah, you're right. They really 18 plays is a lot for one drive. Okay, let's go to the bad. What was your bad for this game?
I don't, I don't know how to put it. It's more like bad fortune for the Commanders. Like I guess it would come. Their defense is going to be the ugly, but they had that first drive, and you know I was fine with them kicking the field goal. They went for it twice. I think the point of that drive for Dan Quinn was we can have success. We put points on the board. Obviously, you're not hoping that the first play for the Eagles is a 60-yard touchdown.
Correct.
But through let's see, once they made it 14-10 or 14-12, and then they stupidly went for two, but that didn't come back to haunt them. But they had sustained drives. And it felt like one of those, I think I text you, where yes, the Eagles had a couple big plays and got touchdowns, but the Commanders were grinding it, time of possession. And I thought it could be one of those games where you're like, wow, the Eagles are winning, but the Commanders are just wearing the Eagles down. And the bad will be the disastrous end of the second half, or first half. Just to have that fumble, give up a touchdown. I know they kicked the field goal like just before half, but touchdown, fumble kickoff, touchdown, you get the field goal. But at that point, now you're down 12, and now you're behind, behind the eight ball as far as trying to grind out the rest of the half. So the bad just being the way that second half ended, opposed to what I felt like the Commanders, though the rope sliding out, I thought they had a chance to wear the Eagles down and keep it close.
Yeah, so I think me and you have them switched, but we could talk about the. So you're saying the bad's the fumble right before second half, right? Right.
Yeah, just like the ending of the first half.
Okay, okay, which is fair. So what I'll do is I'll switch them just for sake of conversation. I kind of had the four turnovers being my ugly, but I'll put it in my bad just for the sake. So three people caught the ball, Brown, Eckler, and McNichols, and fumbled. So I'm like, how do you come on, guys? Like, hold on to the ball. You're in the NFC Championship game. You saw last week what turnovers does to a team, and so you turned the ball over four times, and then specifically the one you're talking about, which I totally agree with you on, is you get some momentum if you can score. It's 2012, right? So you get the ball, you can gain some momentum. Even if you get a field goal before the end of the half, it's 15-20, you're fine. Um, but the problem was they fumbled right away, allowed another touchdown, and then the lead just starts feeling insurmountable. So that's the one turnover in specific I felt like just broke the spirit of the Commanders. So I'm with you as far as that being a pretty big negative. So I will also just give that my bet as well. Yeah, it was rough.
Yeah, and the Austin Eckler one is rough too because they made it 34-23, halfway through the third. So
Yeah.
again, not out of it. Austin Eckler should know better when you catch the ball and you're getting up and the guy's running at you. He's been in the league a long time, but that was pretty much the final nail in the coffin.
That's fair.
But
Yeah.
it just, yeah, you can't. I know we've beat that drum 100 times throughout the playoffs, but case in point was this game.
Yeah. I think the Chiefs might be the only team that won in the playoffs with a negative turnover ratio with this week. So I don't know. That's kind of crazy. Okay, let's talk about our ugly then. Give me your ugly for this game.
Just the Commanders, specifically run defense. I thought they would just put everything into it. Maybe they did, and it was just that bad for this game. But I just thought, like first play, you give up a 60-yard touchdown. Bobby Wagner trips over his own guy. I don't think we'll see that in the Super Bowl. I think, most people's plan is going to be like if Jalen Hurts is going to throw for 300 or 400 yards, so be it. But we're just not going to let you bleed the clock and run. And they just couldn't do it. And again, I think that was on Bill Simmons' podcast Sunday night, just about the rarity of teams running for over 200 yards, like in an NFC championship game. And I think in the last 15 or 20 years, the only other one was the 49ers Packers game from like 5 or 6 years ago. So you usually don't see it, but that they had no answers. Like you said, almost 10 yards of carry from the running backs. You're not going to win with that kind of effort.
No, every time they touch the ball, they're basically getting their first down. I mean, I know it's not necessarily the way it works, but that's what 10 yards of carry means. I'm with you. I'll get the run defense in specific. Payne, Darren Payne,
Dayron Payne, I think.
Dayron, that's it. He was out before the game, I think, right? So, and that's like their best run stopper, and they ain't good at stopping the run, but like when you lose another guy, it's just going to add to the insult to the injuries, so to speak. So their run game was stopping the run was just atrocious. I thought I'm with you. I thought they would sell out stopping the run, and they tried and failed, or they didn't do a good enough job trying. So when you want, I think in order to beat the Eagles, you got to kind of put it on Hurts' shoulder. They didn't do that, and the Eagles kind of just ran away with it after all the turnovers. So yeah.
Yep, you let them just pick and choose what they wanted to do. You got to at least try to turn something off.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, anything else on this game?
I don't think so. Just I know it's tempted, and this will be like a next year thing. When you're the Commanders, like, oh, we're young, we got there, but again, you never know. It's not easy, not easy to get back. Some teams that were down this year might be good next year. Yeah, and you never know what's going to happen. They had an offensive lineman get hurt, last game against the Lions. So, you hope the best for the Commanders, but sometimes, part of you goes, this might have been your one and only, but not to be negative.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but they do have if Daniels is who Daniels is, they have at least that, and you can win with a really good quarterback. You can win 10, 12 games every year, and you just got to get to the dance. As they kind of showed this year, right? But because nobody would have thought they would have got this far, even after making the playoffs. So thanks so much for watching this clip of the Box Score Sports Podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter or X. And we'll talk to you guys real soon. See ya.